Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something really significant historically and even now. It's about Namibia marking the German colonial genocide. For the first time, actually, with a National Memorial Day.
Yeah, it's a huge step, and we've got various sources here, articles, some research notes to help us, explore this properly.
Exactly. Our mission, really, is to unpack the history of what's often called the forgotten genocide.
Mhm. And to trace that long, difficult struggle for recognition for justice.
And try to understand what this new Memorial Day actually means for Namibia, for its healing process.
Where they go from here, basically.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Go back to the start. We're talking about 1904 to 1908.
That's right, in what the Germans called Southwest Africa back then.
And historians generally agree this was the first genocide of the 20th century.
It was, which is why that term, Germany's forgotten genocide, is so well pointed. Because the methods, they were chillingly systematic.
And the victims, primarily the Ovaherero and Nama people.
Yes, targeted specifically.
Why them? What was the trigger for this systematic violence?
Fundamentally, it was about resistance. They refused to just let German colonizers take their land, take their cattle, which was their wealth, their livelihood.
So they pushed back against colonization.
They did. And the German response was incredibly brutal, way beyond just suppressing resistance.
You said systematic murder. The numbers are staggering.
They are. Estimates suggest over 70,000 Africans were killed systematically.
And the methods used, you mentioned concentration camps.
Yes, concentration camps.
Yeah.
Nearly 40 years before the Holocaust. It's a deeply disturbing precursor.
What went on in those camps?
Horrific conditions. People were literally worked to death. Starvation, exhaustion. There were pseudoscientific experiments, too. And one detail that's just bone-chilling is the use of pre-printed death certificates.
Pre-printed?
Yeah. Marked death by exhaustion. It shows they anticipated, even planned for, mass death. It wasn't accidental.
That level of cold, bureaucratic calculation alongside the brutality is hard to fathom. And there was an official order, too.
Oh, yes. From the top. General Lothar von Trotha, in 1904, he issued an extermination order.
An extermination order, explicit.
Absolutely explicit, stated clearly. No prisoners. Men, women, children, whether they had cattle or not, shoot them.
Yeah.
Drive them into the desert. Annihilation was the goal.
And even after death, the dehumanization continued. You mentioned remains being sent to Germany.
Yes, for so-called racial research. Trying to find biological justification for racist ideologies, proving European superiority, that kind of discredited science.
This is awful.
Some of those remains have, thankfully, been returned to Namibia in recent years. But it adds another layer to the trauma.
Germany then lost the territory after World War I, but obviously the impact of those years, that genocide, didn't just vanish.
Not at all. It cast a very long shadow.
Yeah.
And the fight for Germany to even acknowledge it, let alone atone, took decades.
A long silence from Germany then.
A very long silence, publicly at least, which you can imagine was incredibly painful for the descendants, for Namibia as a whole.
So when did Germany finally formally recognize it as genocide?
That only happened quite recently, 2021, so just 4 years ago.
And with that recognition came an offer of sorts.
Yes, an offer. $1.1 billion, which is about $940 million, or $1.34 billion.
Okay. But crucially, it was framed as development aid, wasn't it? Spread over 30 years.
Exactly. The wording was very careful. They avoided the words reparations or compensation.
Why is that distinction so important?
Because reparations implies a legal and moral debt for a specific historical wrongdealing. The genocide, development aid frames it more as assistance, less as direct atonement for that specific crime. It changes the meaning, the admission of liability.
And Namibia's reaction?
They declined it. They called it a first step, which
Yeah.
is diplomatic language, but said it wasn't enough.
What was missing for them?
A formal apology, for one. And crucially, they wanted it framed as reparations, acknowledging the debt in that specific way.
And the reaction from the communities, the Ovaherero and Nama descendants, we have some quotes here. Uahimisa Kapei called it the joke of the century.
Powerful words. And they really get to the heart of the dissatisfaction for many. It wasn't just about the amount.
What was it about then?
He said, "We want our land. Money is nothing." He talked about the lost wealth, the farms, the cattle, the very things stolen during the genocide that formed the basis of their society and economy.
So land is central to this.
For many, yes. And another group, representing victims' families, their statement was also incredibly strong. They saw that 2021 deal as showing a racist mindset from Germany and, quote, neo-colonial subservience from Namibia's government.
That suggests a deep rift, not just with Germany, but potentially within Namibia on how to handle this.
It definitely reflects the deep mistrust and the feeling that the offer just didn't match the scale of the crime or its ongoing consequences, the sense that they weren't being truly heard.
Okay, so that offer was rejected. What's the situation now? Are talks still happening?
Yes, negotiations have continued. Reports suggest there's a new draft deal potentially on the table.
And what's different this time?
It apparently includes that formal apology from Germany, which was missing before, and a bit more money, an extra $50 million.
But has that resolved the underlying issues?
It seems not, for many campaigners at least. Sources say many Ovaherero and Nama activists still feel excluded from the actual negotiations. They see this improved offer as still insulting, still inadequate.
And their core demand remains.
For many, yes. It goes back to the land. They want what they call restorative justice.
Which means?
Specifically, they want Germany to fund the buyback of ancestral lands. Lands taken during the colonial era, now often owned by German-speaking Namibians, and returned to the descendants of the dispossessed.
So it's about tangible restoration, not just symbolic gestures or development funds.
Exactly. It's about addressing the root dispossession.
Now, there's a historical detail here that adds a real twist, a layer of irony regarding reparations.
Yes. This is quite something. Before the genocide really kicked off, Germany actually demanded reparations from the Ovaherero and Nama.
From the victims.
For what? For resisting colonization initially. They forced them to hand over 12,000 cows as punishment, as reparations to Germany.
12,000 cows. Has anyone put a value on that?
Yes. Historian Thomas Kramer estimated it could be worth somewhere between $1.2 million and maybe even $8.8 million today.
Wow.
And his point, which the sources highlight, is that logically, shouldn't that value be added to whatever Germany owes now? It just flips the whole reparations narrative on its head.
It really does. So amidst all this, the horrific history, the long fight, the difficult talks, this irony, Namibia now establishes this National Memorial Day, May 28th.
Yes, and the date itself is significant. May 28th, 1907. That was the day the Germans announced the closure of those concentration camps.
Why then? International pressure.
Apparently, yes, following international criticism. So the date directly connects the remembrance to the brutality of the camps.
And how's the day being marked?
With a minute's silence, a candlelight vigil outside Parliament in Windhoek. The government describes it as part of the nation's journey of healing.
A step towards healing. But how do those campaigners, the ones still unsatisfied with the negotiations, see it?
With some cynicism, according to the sources, they acknowledge the gesture, perhaps, but feel real restorative justice is still missing.
So remembering is one thing, but repairing the damage is another.
That seems to be the sentiment. The Memorial Day is important, but for them, it doesn't resolve the core issues of land and what they see as adequate reparations and involvement in the process. The fight for justice continues.
And there's a more recent piece of context, too. Last year, Namibia strongly criticized Germany.
That's right. It was when Germany offered to defend Israel against genocide charges at the ICJ, the UN court.
And Namibia saw a hypocrisy there.
They did. The then-president, Haig Gangub, directly linked it back. He said, and this is a powerful quote, "The German government is yet to fully atone for the genocide it committed on Namibian soil."
So pointing out that Germany was defending another nation while its own historical reckoning was, in Namibia's view, incomplete.
Exactly. It shows this isn't just dusty history. It's alive. It affects current relationships, current perceptions of justice on the world stage.
It really underscores how the past isn't past, is it? So for you listening, why does digging into this story matter?
Well, I think it's a really stark example of the enduring legacy of colonialism. It shows just how complicated seeking historical justice is, especially across generations. And you see so many different perspectives on what reconciliation even means. Is it money? Is it land? Is it an apology? Is it all of the above? This case has it all.
It really forces us to confront how these past events continue to shape everything: politics, identity, international relations right now. So this deep dive has taken us from, the absolute horror of that first 20th century genocide through decades of silence and struggle, right up to today with this first Memorial Day and these really tense ongoing talks about what atonement actually means.
Yeah. And it leaves us and you with a really challenging thought, I think. When you consider the depth of that historical wound, this huge debate over land versus money, and that incredible irony of Germany taking reparations from the victims first, what does genuine atonement even look like here? What would restorative justice truly entail?
And maybe, is it something that can ever be fully, finally achieved? Or is it, by its nature, an ongoing process, maybe without a neat conclusion?
Something to really mull over.